p.m. Debate is interrupted for the consideration of the paper petition signed by 10,000 or more persons listed on the business paper, which is regarding upgrading the Oxley Highway between Wrights Road and Lake Road, lodged by the member for Port Macquarie. I set down the resumption of the interrupted debate as an order of the day for a later hour. The question is that the House take note of the petition, and when he's ready, I'll call the member for Port Macquarie.
Madam Speaker, I rise today not just as a member for Port Macquarie, but as a voice for a community that is quite frankly fed up. To borrow the words of Peter Finch in the film Network, the people of Port Macquarie are as mad as hell, and we're not going to take this anymore. For years, the residents of my electorate have endured the daily grind of congestion at the Wrights Road and Lake Road roundabouts on the Oxley Highway. I express my gratitude to the more than 10,000 people who signed the petition in less than 2 weeks, and the people who are tuned in today. These intersections are no longer just a nuisance, they are a critical infrastructure failure, with over 20,000 movements every single day and 11,000 new homes planned across the Port Macquarie Hastings region. This corridor is operating well beyond its intended capacity. When the Oxley Highway opened in 2012, it coped well with the volume in traffic, but now, with the substantial population growth over the last 13 years, it is failing to cope. That was stage one. We need stage two now. This is not a hypothetical future problem. It is a present and growing crisis. Peak hour delays of 20 minutes are projected to increase to 40 minutes by 2030. That is not just time lost, it's productivity lost, opportunity lost, in some cases, lives put at risk. Let me be clear, this bottleneck is adjacent to the Port Macquarie Base Hospital, which is undergoing a $264 million upgrade. What good is a world-class hospital if ambulances are stuck in traffic, unable to reach patients or the hospital in time? What comfort is there for families waiting anxiously, knowing that every minute counts and yet every minute is wasted in gridlock? The Minister for Health talked about ramping times in question time today. They can't get to the ramp. There is no rat run to this hospital. It's not about roads, it's about people. Let me share some examples of what people have written to me with their concerns. From Julie, my daughter suffered her first anaphylaxis reaction to peanuts in the car heading home from school. She was around 10 at the time and was having trouble swallowing. We turned back to go to the emergency department. We turned onto the Oxley Highway near the golf driving range, just 1 kilometre from the hospital. We were met with 3 lanes of traffic. I did not think we would make it in time. Fortunately, she had an antihistamine in the morning for hay fever and the reaction went no further. I pushed my way through the traffic and attended the emergency department. We were very fortunate. She could have died in the car waiting in the traffic. This happened 4 years ago and the traffic is worse now. I feel it is only a matter of time before someone loses their life in a medical emergency, is what she said. Or this example from Peter. I'm a regular visitor to the Mid-North Coast Cancer Institute and the emergency department. I often experience the difficulties caused by the Oxley Highway and Wrights Road intersection. Today, I'm being picked up at the door of the Cancer Institute. We travelled 8 metres and then stopped in traffic queue inside the hospital. My wife said the roundabout was completely blocked by all the way to the hospital. Just 2 examples of the impact in our community, but wait, there's more. Charles Sturt University has had to change its exam times because students couldn't get to uni on time. St Columba Anglican School had to change its opening and closing time so students and parents could get through traffic on the Oxley Highway. Despite repeated calls from my predecessor Leslie Williams, local residents, community leaders and the Port Macquarie Hastings Council, the current New South Wales government withdrew $1 million after the current federal government slashed its $4 million contribution. To date, the Minns government has failed to allocate funding for this vital upgrade in this most recent budget. This omission is not just disappointing, it's dangerous. I've met with the Minister for Roads, I've met with the Premier, I've spoken in this very chamber before, and now Business Port Macquarie, alongside thousands of residents, signed a petition demanding immediate action. This petition calls for the planning and design of upgrade works and the development of a business case to be classified as a state significant project. Necessary step to secure future funding from both state and federal governments. Madam Speaker, this is not a partisan issue, it's a community issue, it is a safety issue, this is a moral issue. If the government can allocate $5.5 million for an unbudgeted sound wall in Coffs Harbour, then surely it can fund the planning and business case for the Oxley Highway upgrade, a project that affects tens of thousands of lives every day. Let this be the moment we turn frustration into fruition. Let this be the moment we put people before politics. Let's make this a better state. Let's be the moment we act now, not tomorrow, not next year, but now. The people of Port Macquarie deserve better. They deserve safe, efficient roads. They deserve a government that listens and acts. I urge this House to support the petition to prioritise this upgrade and ensure that no more lives are put at risk because of inaction. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The question is the motion, the House take notice of the petition. I call the member for Shell Harbour.
I just start by advising the member for Port Macquarie. I know you've only been here for a short time, but we came into government in 2023, so the genie's really not out of the bottle. You guys had 12 years before that to actually, you had 12 years to do that prior. Speaker.
Members to my left, thank you. Don't respond, don't react. Be quiet, please.
Speaker, I rise today to speak about the Minns Labor government's unwavering commitment to building better infrastructure for regional New South Wales, particularly in Port Macquarie and in my own electorate of Shell Harbour. Let me begin with Port Macquarie, a thriving and growing community on the New South Wales North Coast. Identified as a regional city, Port Macquarie is a key focus for employment and housing growth. Its population forecast grew by more than 1,000 every year, reaching around 104,000 residents by 2036. That growth demands foresight, planning and investment, and that's exactly what Labor is delivering. We know that congestion on and around the Oxley Highway, especially near the Health and Education Precinct, has been a concern for locals for a long time now. That's why the Minns Labor government is taking action. We're working closely with New South Wales Health to improve local access points around the hospital, and we are collaborating with Council to upgrade the surrounding road network to improve safety and reduce congestion. Speaker, what we have to remember is those opposite had 12 years in government to deliver the intersection upgrades that they're now calling for. And what did they deliver for the Port Macquarie community? Nothing. You delivered nothing. Not a single substantial upgrade to the Oxley Highway in over a decade.
Now, members to my left, just stop talking, please. Member for Oxley, member for Ryde. You were complaining earlier about members on the right-hand side talking, some of you. So please don't talk and don't react. Thank you. Just don't react. Thank you.
Speaker, in fact, the last major upgrade, which was 6 kilometres of the Oxley Highway between Wrights Road and the Pacific Highway, was delivered by the previous Labor government between 2008 and 2012. That's the kind of legacy that Labor leaves behind: real infrastructure, real investment and real outcomes for regional communities. And after 12 years of neglect by the former Liberal National Government, the people of Port Macquarie absolutely deserve better. They deserve roads and infrastructure that match the pace of their community's growth, and that's what Labor is delivering. Speaker, I represent Shell Harbour and I know firsthand what it's like to suffer through 12 years of neglect inflicted by the former government. Our communities were left behind like those, opposite, while those opposite focused elsewhere. Now they seek to divide our regional communities by attacking the good work that the Minns Labor government is doing. But we won't be distracted because we are focused on delivery. In Shell Harbour, we're investing in new access ramps to the Princes Motorway at Dapto to make it easier for locals to get around. We've committed $20 million alongside a $10 million from the federal government to investigate these ramps, supporting future growth and reducing travel times and congestion on our local roads. Speaker, these are not just plans. These projects are underway. The Minns Labor government is delivering these works because we care about the regions. We will always deliver for them, whether it's in Shell Harbour or Port Macquarie. But back to Port Macquarie, we're finalising the business case for a staged intersection upgrades along the Oxley Highway between John Oxley Drive and Hastings River Drive. This will guide future investment to improve safety and travel reliability, particularly at the Wrights Road and the Lake Road intersections. The draft business case is complete and currently undergoing an assurance review to ensure it meets Infrastructure New South Wales requirements. This process ensures that all viable options have been considered, that the project meets its key objectives, and that it delivers in the best possible way and value for the community. Once assured, the business case will outline the preferred options for both Wrights Road and Lake Road, paving the way for funding and construction. These upgrades are designed to address congestion, safely accommodate planned growth, provide greater travel choice and improve access to Port Macquarie and the Health and Education Precinct. And we're not stopping there. The Minns Labor government is investing $20 million to improve the Pacific Highway and the Oxley Highway interchange near Port Macquarie. This project is a part of the Oxley Highway Future Growth Project and was accelerated because the interchange is operating above its designed traffic capacity, causing peak hour congestion. So with around 30,000 vehicles using this section daily, this upgrade will improve safety and increase capacity for traffic flowing smoothly. Speaker, the review of the environmental factors for the proposed interchange upgrades was displayed by Transport in August 2025, with public feedback period concluding on the 1st of September. Speaker, I'm mindful of the time, but I will end by saying this. The Minns Labor government is the party of road infrastructure. We are the party of the bush, we are the party of the worker, we are the party of the regions, and we are party of road infrastructure in New South Wales.
The question is that the House take note of the petition. I call the member for Oxley.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to start out by acknowledging the Minister is in the chamber and she has been quite forthcoming with communication to many different road projects that we've been dealing with lately. And I'll start by talking to the member for Shell Harbour and noting that it was the Labor federal government who took $4 million off the table for the planning of this range of intersections, as well as the state government took the $1 million once the $4 million was gone. So there's $5 million down. And in my wealth of political experience, it's actually rare to see a member fight passionately for an infrastructure project that sits outside their electorate boundaries. I'm yet to see it so far, but I look forward to a less partisan approach across the divide of electorates and funding challenges. In my patch, Wauchope, Beechwood, King Creek and surrounding areas like Thrumster and Lake Innes, they're all impacted every day by the number one issue, the road issue that's affecting us, which is the Lake Road and Wrights Road in roundabouts. And Minister, I'm going to say it to you, can you please make it Wrights? We need to make sure that the number one issue is dealt with. For years, the daily grind of the congestion at Wrights Road and Lake Road has been one of the most frustrating and well-known bottlenecks in the Mid-North Coast. We just heard the member for Port Macquarie talk about the university precinct. We've got the schools. They've had to juggle their times to address the actual congestion. We've got the hospital. It's a really big problem because these intersections, they see over 20,000 vehicle movements per day. That's every single day. Peak hour delays at the moment are terrible, and they're forecast to blow out by an extra 20 minutes by 2030 if we do nothing. I mean, there's simple solutions on the table that are suggested for an interim solution as well as the big fix. Now, you know, that's going to be a complex fix and we recognise that, but we want to see the simple solutions done soon. Right across the Hastings, the region is exploding. In actual fact, it started back when I was young. Coffs Harbour was a much bigger city, and now the Hastings has overtaken. The last 10 years, the growth's been exponential. Overtaken inside the number of people, the population. It's a fantastic place, is our Port Macquarie. And you know, across the Port Macquarie region, Beechwood has seen a staggering increase of population of 48.6% since 2016 up to 2021. Recently, we've had some really good infrastructure improvements to enable housing growth at Yippon Creek. We're going to see 1,600 new homes at Yippon Creek out in my patch of Wauchope. And Thrumster is exploding. It's expanding rapidly with new housing estates. We're trying to help with the current level of housing infrastructure that's needed, and we hope to be party of helping you to get your targets on the Labor side, which is really important. It's really important that we have more affordable housing, more supply. But this discussion today, it's also about safety. It's about emergency access. While we were doing a presser at Wrights Road, we saw an ambulance that was halted in the traffic, that had crossed the median strip to get there, and we want to make sure that the $264 million upgrade at Port Macquarie Base enables access by our emergency services. A long time, the residents have been begging for an upgrade and acknowledge that it has taken a long time. It took a long time to plan, but at least the planning money was there until it was taken away by your government. We need to make sure that the real bottleneck, the real problem with Port Macquarie congestion is acknowledged, It's not the M1 roundabout, Minister. The M1 roundabout was about safety. It was aptly prioritised, and it's also about growth. I mean, the M1 roundabout fixing the $20 million that was mentioned by the member for Shell Harbour, that is important for growth as well, and we need that infrastructure. But what we need right now is the consistent message: we need Wrights Road and Lake Road fixed. Not just long term, we need to make sure that we have interim measures placed now, because we all know that planning and delivery by a government takes a very long time. Speaker, the regions like ours are doing the heavy lifting. I've just talked about our delivery of housing in the area. We've got new families, we've got the exodus from the cities into the regions, and I certainly understand that. It's much better to be living up by the beach and the environment that we've got up there than sitting here in the concrete and steel jungle. And despite sitting outside the Oxley boundary, the Wrights Road roundabout is one of the main priorities in transport that I'll be fighting for. We need the funding announced, Minister and Premier. We need to make it rights. We need to fix Wrights Road and Lake Road properly with an interim solution as well, and then permanently and without delay, if you don't mind.
I call the member for Bega.
Speaker, the Minns Labor government is committed to delivering better roads and infrastructure for our regional communities, and the Port Macquarie community deserves better roads and less congestion. I know what it's like for a community's roads to be neglected by a state government. The Bega community was neglected by the former Liberal National Government, and 12 years of neglect is a long time for infrastructure neglect. In my community of Bega, the Minns Labor government is building better roads and infrastructure. We're ensuring the Cuttagee Bridge is safe and functional feature of my community. Our government committed $15 million at the election to fix the bridge. It is a crucial road link between Barraga Bay and Bermagui, providing access to the Sapphire Coast. The road also provides an important sealed alternative access to the Princess Highway in this region, from Tilba or Cobargo in the north to Tathra, Bega and further south to Merimbula and Pambula via Sapphire Coast Drive and Arthur Kane Drive. It provides emergency services access to an increasing residential rural population, and earlier this year I was pleased to join the Premier and the Minister for Roads to announce a $60 million investment in safety upgrades on the Princess Highway, including in my electorate. This is vital work to help reduce deaths and serious injuries on our roads, work that was neglected for too long. Now, since we've come to government, we've also completed essential repair and maintenance work on Wallaga Lake Bridge, and while we're upgrading the bridge, we ran a free temporary bus service to maintain pedestrian access, with school bus amendments that contributed to reduced impacts on the community while work was being carried out. Now, Speaker, the Minns Labor government is delivering these upgrades because that's what Labor governments do. As the member for Shell Harbour said, it was a Labor government that delivered the last major upgrade to the Oxley Highway between Wrights Road and the Pacific Highway between 2008 and February 2012. This upgrade improved local access and provided better connections for commuters and freight to Port Macquarie, Wauchope and other regional centres. The upgrade provides many benefits, including improved road safety, improved travel times for motorists travelling from Wauchope and surrounding areas into Port Macquarie, extensive landscaping and urban design initiatives, including a gateway feature at the entrance to Port Macquarie, safe places for wildlife to cross the new road, including fauna underpasses, glider crossings and a rope bridge for other tree-based animals. And the government's not stopping there. In November 2024, interim works were implemented at the Pacific Highway Oxley Highway interchange. These works used the existing road formation to incrementally increase the capacity of the northbound exit ramp from 1 to 2 lanes. The works also included clearing vegetation, removing adjacent concrete and curb, minor asphalt work, resealing and line marking and signage installation.
Member rises on a point of order. Just take a seat, member for Bega.
Speaker, it's point of order 76. The member is talking about an intersection that is miles away and he hasn't come back to Wrights Road. I'm asking you to bring him back to Wrights Road and Lake Road roundabouts.
Member will just I know at the beginning you started with Bega, but I thought that you'd moved to Port Macquarie since then.
I'm in Port Macquarie.
Yeah.
You want a map? I'll
Yeah.
get you a map. It's Port Macquarie. It's the highway. Okay.
Okay, just
Rights
thank
Road.
you.
And
Thank you.
just be patient. Okay.
Be mindful, member for Oxley, and let's be mindful of the motion that we're about Port Macquarie.
Absolutely. These upgrades are designed to address congestion, safely accommodate planned growth, provide greater travel choices and improve access into Port Macquarie and the Health and Education Precinct. Transport for New South Wales continues to partner with Port Macquarie Hastings Council to improve how people and goods travel to, from and around Port Macquarie, ensuring the transport network can keep pace with growth over the next 20 years. The Minns Labor government remains committed to building better roads and infrastructure for communities like mine in Bega, the Port Macquarie community, as well as regional communities across the state. I know the intersection experienced a high level of traffic during a previous visit to Port Macquarie Base Hospital in my role as Parliamentary Secretary for Health and Regional Health. And Speaker, I'd like to acknowledge the petitioners for their advocacy for the upgrade of the Oxley Highway between Wrights Road and Lake Macquarie, and I commend the member for Port Macquarie for his work for his community.
I call the member for Davidson.
Right.
Right. Right.
Thank you,
Beg your
Speaker.
pardon.
I rise to support the petition that has been brought to this Parliament, brought to this House by the member for Port Macquarie. And before I speak to the substance, can I just say what an extraordinary achievement it is for the member for Port Macquarie. He's only been here a short time. 10,000 signatures on a written petition. That is no mean feat. That speaks volumes about the issue. And as the member for Oxley says, all done in the space of 2 weeks. That is a very intense effort and a very intense voice from a community that is clearly very frustrated and concerned about this issue. And I understand it. I think we all have an equivalent of Wrights Road and Lake Road in our electorates. And I know that colloquially in the area it's known as the Wrights Road and Lake Road debacle. I've got my own. If I said Hermitage Road, people would roll their eyes. If I said Anzac Avenue, people would roll their eyes. And I know that the people in Port Macquarie feel the same. In fact, I know this because when I was up there during the by-election, it was the number one issue that people would talk about. As they'd roll into pre-poll, they would say straight up and down, what are you going to do about Wrights Road? And to be able to stand there and say that I'm supporting a candidate that has a plan to get the funding back for this project, that was the information they wanted to hear, and that is why he is here today. But it is important to note that I said get the funding back, because the substance of why this issue has been allowed to go on for as long as it has is because funding that was once there, once allocated to finally fix this terrible traffic intersection, has been taken away by the federal Albanese government. And that is an appalling message to send to a community who had been able, they would have thought, to rely on that investment coming into their community. The reason it's particularly disappointing is because it's also a growth area. Port Macquarie is undergoing a huge influx of new housing. In fact, 14,000 dwellings being built in the immediate precinct of Wrights Road and Lake Road. I can tell you from experience in a metropolitan community, 14,000 homes makes an extraordinary impact on existing infrastructure and particularly roads. Roads are the most vivid example of whether a government is able to deliver for its community, because it's something that people use every single day. They experience that traffic, they experience the emotion and the frustration that comes from it every day, be it on their way to work, be it on their way to visit loved ones, weekend sport, no matter what it is, but particularly in this case, where it is in a health precinct. Because not only do you have the existing through traffic heading up and down the north coast, not only do you have the existing residents that live in the immediate vicinity, not only do you have the comings and goings of the new dwellings that will be coming shortly, but you also have the emergency factor around the hospital precinct. Ambulances coming and going, people visiting sick relatives, those who may be going to see people in their final days. That is the sort of reality that we are talking about for people. So it's all well and good for those opposite to talk about the investments they've made down on the south coast and their stated commitment when it comes to roads and infrastructure. But what they haven't done in their contribution to this petition is put people at the centre of the contributions. And they haven't talked about the real emotional impact that people have when they can't get into the hospital, when they can't get to work on time, when you're a tradie trying to go to your job and you can't get there and you have to tell the client in advance
advance that you're stuck in traffic you can do nothing about. And the worst thing about all of that is that, as has been stated, this has been an ongoing issue for this community for some time. And this isn't to put a political point on it, but you can't deny the fact that funding was there and it was taken away. And that is simply a statement of fact, and that is something that those opposite need to address. They are in government now, they have the capacity and the ability to make the change. And I think that the people of Port Macquarie, the 10,000 people, and I'm sure the more who share this view, but who weren't in a position to add their names to the petition, would expect nothing less from their government. So I look forward to the opportunity to hear from the Minister in reply about the plans, but I just want to come back to this point that in 2 short weeks, a new Member of Parliament has been able to stand up in this chamber and introduce a very significant petition on a very localised issue. For any minister, for any government, for any member to ignore that, I think would speak a lot about where their priorities are, and the priority would clearly not be listening to those people if there isn't something substantive to say today about what they're going to do for that issue. So I wish the member for Port Macquarie all the very best in his continued advocacy. I will be listening eagerly for what those opposite have to say in response. I want to acknowledge the 10,000 people that have signed the petition, and I would urge you to continue to speak about this issue with your friends, with your neighbours and with your family, because the more pressure we put on this government, the more chance we have of getting this issue resolved.
I call the Minister in reply.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I agree to some point of view with the member for Ryde that there needs to be put some pressure on this government, because for 12 long years, Madam Speaker, they did not. And as the member for Port Macquarie acknowledged, that particular stage 1 of that upgrade of Wrights and Lakes Road was completed under the former, or started under the former Labor government, and then failed to have any other work done on it. Now, we can talk about the federal funding being withdrawn, but they've also, members on that side have said that the state money was withdrawn. It was not withdrawn. There has been work undertaken on this, so I think you should go back to your communities on that. And that particular intersection is actually one of the first that I visited as a Minister for Regional Transport and Roads then at that time, with the former Nationals, then Liberal member for Port Macquarie, Leslie Williams, and she spoke to me about that. And I mean, I could sense the frustration there, that nothing had been done in the time that she was the member, as either a member of the National Party or a member of the Liberal Party. And I think one of the challenges there's been in that particular region is that there hasn't been an accord of desire of what you wanted to do there, what they wanted to do, because they were too busy infighting. In that same visit, I couldn't even get to meet in a same room with the member and the Mayor. Now, I'm happy to say that has changed under the current arrangement, and I'm not surprised that, given that the Nationals and Liberals both fought for the seat a couple of months ago, and this was their key thing that they were going to deliver, that of course you're going to get people that you've got ready to go and support that. And on this side of the House, Madam Speaker, we have all had that experience in our electorates. What I have said, and I've said this to the former member for Port Macquarie too, is we go back to how much pressure that the Nationals have gone on about the Regional Seniors Travel Card. $23.8 million was wasted on that card when it could have been put into doing more than the business case, could have been doing actually upgrading the road network around Port Macquarie. It could have been delivering the bus plan, the 16 cities plan that those opposite failed to fund for Port Macquarie. So what are we doing as the government? We've been developing our strategic regional integrated transport plans around the state to try and lift up these regional priorities, which, as you say, you've got 2 state members there on the North Coast who are advocating for the, or Mid-North Coast advocating for this. Just as we have in the member for Oxley's electorate with Valor Beach, we've been responsive to what we can do, but we are facing the biggest debt ever handed from one government to another, and infrastructure that has not been done for 12 years makes it difficult. Now, we are trying to prioritise growth, infrastructure, and this has happened right across the state. What you've heard today is Labor members expressing a solidarity with regions that have been neglected by those opposite for 12 long years. Thank you.
I call the member for Port Macquarie. After the, I'll just check with the member for the Upper Hunter Sex leave to speak. Is leave granted? Leave's granted.
Thank you, members. I appreciate making a contribution because it is a really important topic and one that we all know very well. We've all spent a bit of time in Port Macquarie, wonderful place, and can I acknowledge the member for Port Macquarie for bringing this petition here today. Excellent work. Just 2 short weeks and you managed to get all the signatures. That outstanding effort, and good on you, mate, for everything you do for your electorate. So just like the member for Oxley, he's pretty passionate about this one as well. It sort of goes to how important this piece of infrastructure is to the area. It certainly is one that gets a lot of attention. It's a growing area. Business Port Macquarie, obviously did a lot of work. So well done to you guys. And I know from my own visit to the area that the Mayor, Adam Roberts, this was number one on his list of a long-standing issue that he wanted addressed and was of a high priority. But most importantly, we do have to remember, the people of Port Macquarie, Oxley, everyone in that region. It is a very fast-growing region. Of course, they should be living in the Upper Hunter. That's where people all want to live. But as second best, they moved to Port Macquarie. And it's it's a pretty good spot as well, and great spot to be in. But it's got 20,000 vehicle movements every single day, and so and with 11,000 new homes, it was certainly something that the Mayor said to me, if we want to build housing, and all we talk about in this place is new housing, then we need to fix the infrastructure and make sure that we get it right. So the really important thing there, obviously being right next to the hospital means that it is hugely important for the community in terms of servicing that hospital. And I know that the member for Port Macquarie has raised a number of real life issues that he has seen, as I myself have spent a bit of time waiting in that roundabout and can see how important it is. In fact, I even got a text message from a guy a month ago or something like that, a Mr. Alistair Flower, good man, but he was pretty forthcoming on his opinion about Wrights Road, about how the congestion of all the people as he tries to go to work. There he is in delays as he's trying to drop the kids off at the local school there, St Colombo, and the frustration in his life about just trying to go to the shops and go and do some grocery shopping and even go to the gym. And who are we to stand in the way of a man who needs to go to the gym? So then again, another good reason why we need to do this particular project. And we have seen some money allocated in the past. Sadly gone, and we do thank the Minister for being here during this debate, and we implore on her to continue advocating to get that money back. Get that money off those federal government guys and put it into some important infrastructure. They talk the strong housing game, but we need the infrastructure investment to make sure it actually goes ahead as well. But now I'm not on the government, but I do have a few solutions to offer them. Few solutions, and I'm afraid for the people of Port Macquarie and Oxley, there's good news and bad news. The good news is there is a fund. There is a fund where we can maybe get some money to be able to put in it. The government has put away $334 million into the Regional Roads Fund. The Regional Roads Fund. Sounds good, doesn't it? Let me just read you what when they made the announcement in September 2023. It's for councils to build new roads and roundabouts, replace and repair old bridges, improve safety at crashed black spots. Great stuff, fantastic. However, oh dear, this is where it all comes undone, because actually you would think the council would be able to apply to this fund for the roundabout, but no, unfortunately it's all going into seats, mostly Labor seats. There's no application process. No application process.
The member, right?
All we have to do
the member for Upper Hunter. Please stop the clock. Please, member for Upper Hunter, take a seat, please. I call the member, the minister.
Madam Speaker, I ask you to ask the member to stop misleading the House. When those announcements were made, more than half of those seats were not in Labor-held seats. And just like their misleading the House
Can we stop the
on
clock,
the
please?
issue around whether Labor in New South Wales kept that money on that roundabout. They are completely incorrect, and I ask that you draw the member back to the leave of the
Right.
petition, which is around Wrights Road and Lakes
Okay,
Road.
well, yes, I do ask the member to return in the last 5 seconds to the leave of the... No, that's member.
Well, there you go. I was offering a solution to the good members of the government, but if they're not willing to open their funds to be able to put it in important
Thank you.
infrastructure, shame on you then.
Thank you. Member, do you seek leave to speak?
Yes, I'd like to seek leave to make
The
a
member
brief-
seeks leave to speak. Is leave granted? No, that leave is not granted, member. I call the member in response. Thank you. I call the member for Port Macquarie in reply. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I think the member for Oxley, the member for the Upper Hunter, the member for Ryde, was hoping Balmain, the Minister for Roads, member for Bega, the member for Shell Harbour for your contributions to this debate. And I look forward to seeing the temporary plans. Each has reinforced what our community already knows. This is a growing and a major problem. If the Minns government fails to act swiftly, we'd love to see those plans and commit funding for detailed planning. Congestion into Port Macquarie will only worsen. As highlighted earlier, with Port Macquarie Base Hospital about to go a major rebuild, we must ask, how will tradies reach the construction site? How will doctors, nurses and patients reach the hospital? As the Premier told the House on this Tuesday, emergency departments are the responsibility of the state government. Well, it's called an emergency department for a reason. People need access urgently, not 20 minutes stuck in traffic. I've listened carefully to those on the other side who have offered different reasons and excuses imaginable for the government's lack of action, but quite frankly, I'm disappointed, although not surprised by their decision to delay what is clearly an urgent priority. Let me remind those opposite that it was under the former Labor government that the upgraded Oxley Highway was originally designed, funded and partially delivered. When the Coalition was elected in 2011, we completed that vital infrastructure, culminating in the opening of the upgraded highway in February 2012. However, it is now clear that the population growth data relied upon at the time was either inadequate or inaccurate. Transport authorities failed to account for the rapid expansion we have experienced over the last 13 years. This isn't about assigning blame, it's about recognising
Members, be
reality.
quiet, please.
Had the
Members to
projections
my
been
left.
accurate, I'm confident that the original road designs and construction would have been future-proofed to meet the needs of today's growing community. Now, with traffic congestion choking a local road network, we need urgent investment in updated planning and design work. Each month of delay makes life harder for residents. Our community deserves a clearer commitment, and the people of Port Macquarie don't need more excuses. They need real solutions. It's time for the Minns government to stop stalling and start delivering on infrastructure for our region.
The question is that the House take note of the petition. All of that opinion, please say aye. Aye. To the contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. The debate on the 10,000 signature paper on upgrading the Oxley Highway between Wright Street and Lake Road has concluded. I don't need to thank the members in the gallery because